Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Hello and welcome to the Reefer Reporters. It's April the 21st, 2022, and we are live on our YouTube channel and Facebook pages from the Legacy420.com news desk. Good morning, Glenn. How are you doing, buddy?
Morning, Al. I'm doing great. How are you?
No, a little tired.
Celebrating yesterday.
Yeah, celebrating, going around to places and stuff like that while we're doing it. And then after the day's events, Gail and I, we went out for dinner.
Sounds like a fun day.
It sure was. It was a good day. It was a good day to talk to a lot of people and did some reminiscing as well.
I really like the 420 tour.
Yes, yeah. Now, talking about 420, we have a couple of 420 stories in our news today. But just a generalization, we're going to talk about the one that's a news article on the one that happened out in Vancouver. This morning I saw some pictures that was going on in Toronto yesterday at Yonge and Dundas Square, as well as talking to Stephen Stairs. He did one out in Winnipeg. He said that everything there was great and everybody had a good time. Lots of people attended.
Great.
So, yeah. I'm not sure on some of the other ones. Now, as far as if you've missed any, you want to go to one, there's still one happening on Friday, tomorrow, in Windsor. It's the 422.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Alex Newman, he's hosting that down there, and it's done differently. It's as if there's an outdoor setup. It's not like a march or anything, but there's some vendors and stuff like that in this outdoor setting, and people can go there and smoke their cannabis and see vendors.
So the purpose of the 422 was just to move it to the Friday, I guess?
Well, I know some years in the past, some people have done it. You know, say 420 was on the Thursday, they'd have the march on the Saturday.
Yeah.
So, and I think with this, the way Alex explained it when he was on the Pace Radio show was that he used the 22 because of the year 22.
Makes sense.
And 422,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So there's still more to go. It's not over yet.
Be a long drive for me to get there, but I'd like to.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I even consider it a long drive for me. Never mind you. It's a couple provinces away from me. So, yeah. Now, we're going to get started our first news story today, which was something that was a court ruling that came out last Thursday during our report. So I thought, hey, we gotta discuss that today. And what's that news story?
It's
Headline says that an Ontario judge rejects constitutional challenge of law on cannabis-impaired driving.
Yeah, and a judge in Ontario overseeing the trial of a driver who struck and killed a woman and her 3 young daughters in Brampton nearly 2 years ago has rejected his challenge of the law on cannabis-impaired driving.
Brady Robertson of Caledon has pleaded guilty to 4 counts of dangerous driving causing death in connection with the accident that killed these people, and they were the children were between the ages of 1 and 6.
Yeah, he pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of operation while impaired by drugs causing death, and his lawyers filed a constitutional challenge of Canada's law setting out a legal limit for THC blood concentration when driving. And I tend to agree with the lawyer on this part. I'm not excusing that he killed people, obviously, but it's an arbitrary number. It's kind of a made up number.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. As when this came out last week, I could see on my Twitter feed that there was people were commenting about it, including some lawyers, and it's a bad case because of the fact that some people were killed, including children.
Yeah.
And as it says, he's pleaded guilty to that. He's not arguing that. He's arguing the impairment part. And that's where this 5 nanograms come in. And like you say, it is an arbitrary number.
Yeah, and I don't know what the number should be, but that's
No.
definitely not it.
Same here. So read on and see what it says.
Defense lawyers raise a hypothetical scenario: the possibility that frequent cannabis users could have residual THC levels beyond the legal limit, even after the impairing effects of the drug wore off. And I can attest that is absolutely true.
Yeah, exactly. Because of that 5 nanogram limit.
Yeah.
The Ontario Court Judge, Sandra Cappuccia, previously found Robertson had a blood THC concentration of 405 nanograms about 45 minutes after the crash, but said the verdict on the impaired charges would rest on the outcome of the constitutional challenge.
And in a ruling released last week, the judge noted the challenge raises complicated policy considerations. She concluded, however, that while the legal limit may affect some frequent and chronic cannabis users, it does so in a way that does not violate the principles of fundamental justice because, on balance, the impact is neither arbitrary nor overbroad.
The impact.
Yeah. This is a really tough one because of the people that died. But
correct. Yeah.
The numbers really, really bother me.
Yeah, exactly. Now, she also wrote that the impact is consistent with Parliament's stated intention when the possession of cannabis was legalized to strengthen the laws with a view to not only detecting impaired drivers, but also deterring individuals who consume cannabis from getting behind the wheel of a car when they represent a risk to the public. As well, the judge said it cannot be assumed that a THC reading of 5 nanograms reflects a harmless amount of residual THC level as opposed to evidence of recent consumption in every frequent cannabis use.
I tested positive after 31 days of consuming nothing. Now, I'm not saying I was these 5 nanograms, but it was still in my system after 31 days.
Yeah, and you were actually, it wasn't just tested. You went and got it at the dollar store and
I actually had to do it for my job.
Yeah, exactly, for a job.
Yeah. Even so, blood can only be seized when there are reasonable grounds to believe an offense has been committed, she wrote. Robertson's lawyer declined to comment on the ruling Thursday.
Yeah, sentencing submissions in the case are scheduled to begin on April the 25th, so it's in 4 days. At the sentencing hearing in December, tearful friends and relatives laid bare the grief at the loss of this woman and her daughters.
I believe that. I mean, obviously he's guilty of killing these people, but yeah. I don't know if that can be as a result of this test.
Yeah, and like I said, he's pleaded guilty.
Yeah.
To that end of things, it's
it's a really severe sentence for basically a drunk driving charge, is what it is. You know, impaired causing death. That's a really serious if it's just an accident is a big difference.
Yeah. It's death of anyways. Like that's never a good story.
Yeah.
I'm sure that a lot of us would have preferred to have seen that constitutional challenge around somebody that was pulled over for impaired driving.
Yes, I think it would have been a much better challenge, and it might have succeeded.
Yeah. Now, as far as down the road, who knows? Maybe down the road there will be more challenges.
Yeah.
On that. So
I'm sure there will.
Yeah. Well, see, that's at that point. And he could be found guilty of it, but that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be an appeal to go on to a higher court.
Yeah, and I think this warrants that.
Yeah, it probably will end up. That will probably end up happening. I wouldn't doubt it. So we'll keep an eye on it and see if it does. So,
okay.
All righty, on to our next story. And this one here is an update from one that we talked about. I'm going to say probably about a month or so ago here on the Reefer Reporters, and that is that the founder of the not-for-profit says he's concerned Manitoba is holding back sale of fundraising pre-rolls.
And the man leading the charge to challenge Manitoba's ban on homegrown cannabis says he believes the province may be holding back sales of a new not-for-profit pre-roll meant to raise funds for the court challenge. Jesse Lavoie, who's the founder of Toba Grown, announced his Toba Grown pre-roll line early this year, meant to raise funds for his organization's court challenge against the Manitoba government.
Yeah, that's because the government doesn't allow them to grow their 4 plants that are legally allowed federally.
Wow.
This is over. But in March, Lavoie says the Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries accepted a range of new SKUs, but not his own. Something he speculates may be related to the politics surrounding the product and the movement it's seeking to help raise funds for. And working with growers and processors, Lavoie was able to put together several large orders of his pre-rolls he planned to sell to help pay for court costs and lawyers' fees, but they are now sitting in a vault inside his processing partner's facility in Ontario, still awaiting provincial approval.
Of course they are.
Of course they are.
Every day he's forced to wait, he says, his product gets older. But if he wants to keep it fresh and ship it to another province, he and his partners will incur significant costs. I pride myself on what is inside Toba rolls. I think that's how you pronounce it, says Lavoie. We have a very long-standing partnership lined up with Safari Flower, the grower who supplied the dry flower. And those joints are so fresh right now. I don't want them sitting on a pallet for months while we wait and hope. I'd rather move them immediately so that everyone who enjoys them gets to enjoy them at their freshest. Then once the Manitoba issue is dealt with, we'll refill those cases and orders.
And he continues to say that we have 1,300 cases ready to ship sitting at Canmart. We have to ship those cases from Canmart back to Safari, who rolled them, rip open the cases, take off the Manitoba tax stamps, then purchase and apply excise stamps and master cases for another province and start the process all over again. Holy
wow. A representative for the MBLL said they could not comment on specific products or companies out of respect for the business interests, but says the provincial agency usually processes a new cannabis listing request in a period of several weeks. Yeah, they're doing this in the business interest, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, several weeks, yeah. However, there are factors that can shorten or extend that time frame, generally related to the completeness of the information provided regarding the product of the novelty or the novelty of the product, says Lauren Klinkting, communication director with the MBLL. In cases where we need to follow up with the applicant for an additional information, more time may be required. Well, obviously, I can understand that, but Jeffrey isn't saying that there's been any communication from them saying, "Hey, you need to fix this or you need to fix that or anything like that, or this information is missing."
It's time sensitive, and they accept everybody else's SKUs except for his, which I find really funny.
Yeah, and it's a good cause. It's to raise money in order to fight that court challenge that says that you can't grow 4 cannabis plants in Manitoba.
Yeah, I didn't know that you weren't allowed to do that.
Quebec's the same thing.
Wow.
Montreal, Manitoba, and Quebec don't allow their citizens to grow 4 plants, even though that we can do it legal federally.
Wow.
Your ass backwards there.
Yep, yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, we're used to, talking about in the U.S. where the states are legalizing it and the federal government's not.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, on to our first 420 news story, and that is the 420 event returns to the Vancouver Art Gallery, according to CTV News.
Yeah, the annual 420 event returned to the Vancouver Art Gallery on Wednesday after spending the last few years at Sunset Beach. The city said the pro-pot gathering was an unpermitted and unsanctioned, but it still attracted a large number of people. The celebration of cannabis culture was drawing crowds in Vancouver long before legalization, and this year's event was no different. People packed into the North Plaza of the gallery, which was lined with tents and booths selling all kinds of wares.
Yeah. Organizer Adeline McArdle says the turnout was wonderful. Says that we have decided to come back home. We weren't sure about the numbers, but also we were asked by the city and we were given word that they would be fenced off. They would be fencing off the beach to remove the barge. I haven't seen it fenced off, and the barge is still there.
In an emailed statement, the city of Vancouver said it was aware of the 420 gathering and added protective fencing was put up on the other side of the gallery around the memorial for residential school victims to prevent any accidental damage. Vancouver police said they were on the site and monitoring for traffic issues as they would with any large event. What do they mean, accidental damage?
Yeah, accidental damage. There's damage that people do on purpose, and then there's damage that can happen accidentally. Who knows?
I think most of the people attending this gathering are pretty peaceful.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. I'm looking at it as an accident, as something being not being done on purpose.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But
so.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Over the last 2 years, 420 gatherings at the beach attracted smaller crowds compared to the tens of thousands that turned out prior to the pandemic. With the massive crowds came controversy, including opposition from the park board. Previous 420 organizer Dana Larson said the move to the beach in 2016 was for, as he quotes here, public safety reasons due to the overgrowing the art gallery space.
Yeah, and just looking at turnout for the event here today, it's clearly a very, very popular event, one which I think should be supported by the city and probably given a subsidy like many other large community events. Good luck on that one.
He's been talking about that for years.
Yeah, I wish they would, but it's too far right now for them. If this continues to get busier and busier as it has been, then I would not be surprised if we're looking at moving 420 back to Sunset Beach next year.
Yeah. McArdle said, while it is a celebration, it is still a protest as well over aspects of legalization. Yeah. All they create is a monopoly over cannabis. They haven't actually created reasonable access to cannabis, and reasonable access does not look like a $15 a gram.
Yeah.
Our medical patients, our family, our people on disability, our people who have been affected by all these, they are the ones who need cannabis the most.
And the festivities are scheduled to continue until 10 p.m. on Wednesday.
Yeah, there's some pictures here that were there. I'm just sort of scrolling down through them to see the people, the booth set up there, security.
Yeah, it looks like a great little gathering.
Yeah, nice peaceful little gathering going on there. Yeah. No doubt about that. Yeah, as they've always have been, over the years. When we
I've never seen anything. You don't hear the news stories of everybody going crazy at them. That's for sure.
No, exactly. And I think only once have I ever really heard a bad story about at a 420.
But now you have me curious.
Oh, somebody turned up with a gun.
Oh, geez.
At an event, and that was quickly removed.
Yeah. Wow.
No. Yeah. Not wanted whatsoever. All right. We're talking about the U.S. Government and laws, as I mentioned earlier. Our next story, actually, I think our next couple of stories talk about that. And that's the fact that this headline says that the U.S. lawmakers are warming up to the cannabis industry.
Yeah. April's usually a pretty typically an eventful month for the cannabis industry, with 420 celebrations bringing the attention and sales. But things have been heating up much earlier this year. In the first 4 days of April, the U.S. House of Representatives once again and narrowly passed a bill to decriminalize marijuana, and then days later, overwhelmingly approved legislation to ease barriers to cannabis research. In addition, Maryland lawmakers voted to put an adult use cannabis measure on their state's November ballot. New Mexico became the latest state to begin recreational sales, and this Thursday, New Jersey will start selling recreational cannabis.
That's today. That's today.
Great.
That's today. Welcome, New Jersey.
Welcome.
Yeah, the full-scale legalization of cannabis in America feels like it's closer than ever. More states have passed recreational use laws. Comprehensive legislation is gaining attention and votes in Congress. And the industry continues to steamroll to maturity with a stream of mega mergers, high value investments, and steady sales. Look at that garden.
Yeah,
And it goes
beautiful.
on to say the fact that the House of Representatives has passed the MORE Act in two successive sessions of Congress really is a sign that the end of the federal prohibition is drawing near, according to Stephen Hawkins, who's the president and chief executive officer of the U.S. Cannabis Council.
Yeah, they're only about 40 years too late, right?
Yeah. And it's happening. Let's keep moving it on. You just
Yep.
gotta legalize it. Come on.
However, while this is an industry that has long held a not if but when belief towards legalization, what's viewed as inevitable is not necessarily imminent. The MORE Act, which mustered only 3 Republican votes, is not expected to succeed in the Senate. Additionally, a separate legalization bill that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is expected to introduce this summer also might not garner the 60 votes needed to pass. I don't think anything in the U.S. Senate that needs 60 votes is going to pass right now.
I agree. Yeah, no matter how good it is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a cannabis bill or any other bill. If it needs 60 votes to pass, it's probably not passing.
Probably not passing. That's right. Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, they say that in terms of passage of the bill, it's a tough bill to pass in the Senate, says Hawkins, but we're not ruling it out. I won't rule it out either, but it's very thin.
Yeah,
The absence of federal legalization has not slowed down. One of the fastest growing industries in the States, the cannabis industry reeled in an estimated $27 billion in sales in 2021. And that's up 35% from 2020, according to the data released earlier this month by MJ Biz. And in the next 5 years, it projects sales will nearly double.
Up 35% in 1 year.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Right now, over 425,000 jobs in the economy are tied to the cannabis industry. With that, we see the continued increase for public support for legalization, Hawkins said, and we continue to see both red and blue states pass laws to legalize cannabis for either adult or medical use. As more states allow for cannabis sales, companies with the budding industry aren't waiting for the federal law changes to take place.
Yeah, just like here in Canada, the federal government is not saying no to tax money raised by cannabis in the illegal world.
Yeah.
They're taking people are working those jobs. As I said, there's all those jobs created. Those people are paying income tax.
Yes,
and
they are.
other things, right? So they go to the federal government and they take that money. Thank you very much, they say. In the past year, there have been a couple of multi-billion-dollar mergers. The latest, which is Cresco's acquisition of Columbia Care. And if the deal closes as expected in the fourth quarter, the combined company would have upward of 120 retail locations and dozens of facilities in 17 states. It sets us up for very well if federal change happens anytime soon, according to their CEO, Charlie Batchel.
I guess it does. It sounds like they have a lot of locations. Big company.
Yeah.
More than 2/3 of U.S. sales or states have legalized cannabis in some capacity. Of the 37 that have medical marijuana laws, 18 of them have recreational cannabis laws, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. And more could be on the way. Such states as Delaware, New Hampshire, Rhode Island are debating recreational cannabis legislation. Petition drives and legislative efforts for medical marijuana programs are also underway in states such as Kansas, Nebraska, North Carolina, South Carolina, said Karen O'Keefe, Director of State Policies for the Marijuana Policy Projects, a lobbying and advocacy program or organization.
That means if those new ones join, there's 41 states with a medical law.
Yeah, and some of these states are deep deep South red states.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, and this is about money now.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the government's still getting some money in a way, but they could get more.
I think these states are watching other states collect a lot more than they are.
Yeah, and hopefully they're noticing the sky hasn't fallen.
Yeah.
Yeah. One step towards broader reform is a secure and fair enforcement banking act, which is safe, which would make it easier for cannabis businesses to accept access banking services because cannabis remains illegal in the eyes of the federal government. And despite 2014 guidelines from the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, some financial institutions have been weary of serving cannabis-related businesses for fear of violating anti-money laundering laws. The SAFE Act bill is gaining momentum in Congress and is now in a good position to become law, according to Hawkins. Well, they need that because they're just dealing with money and moving money around.
Yeah, and I think the banks are right to be worried because there is some people in government that would penalize them for doing any business.
Yeah, and that's why it's got to be. That's one reason of several why it has to be changed federally as well.
Yep. And beyond making it easier for financial institutions to work with cannabis businesses, the Safe Banking Act has long been touted as a public safety measure. Colorado Representative Ed Perlmutter first introduced the legislation 5 years ago following deadly robberies at cash-only dispensaries. Re-upping those safety concerns after another recent stretch of criminal activity at dispensaries, Perlmutter asked Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to put the muscle to the administration behind getting it passed. Yellen responded that she was in support of the bill in exchange for the first reported by Marijuana Moment.
Other reforms and even full legalization could come via other means, however, including the Farm Bill, says Rep. David Scott, chairman of the House Agricultural Committee, in a tweet last month. Scott pushed for the Farm Bill to include a provision that would eliminate barriers for small businesses and Black entrepreneurs to start legal cannabis companies under state law. I believe we covered that report.
Yep.
But all of these piecemeal approaches to legalization could end up backfiring. So it says South Carolina Republican Representative Nancy Mace, who also has a bill before the government.
Yeah, she introduced a state's Reform Act bill that would seek to decriminalize cannabis, having it federally regulated like alcohol, impose a 3% excise tax, let states determine their own approaches and programs toward cannabis, and open up the doors to banking. It's bad enough that you get a multi-billion-dollar industry operating in cash. That's dangerous, she said. I believe she's right there.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I'm almost looking at that her bill. I don't know everything about her bill, but it talks about here about how it would federally legalize like alcohol. Some like ours impose a 3% tax. Ours is 1% tax, and let states determine their own approaches. And here provinces determine a lot of their own approaches as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
obviously, we were just talking about Quebec.
Yeah. She goes on to say that bills that approach a singular use like banking or research risk not passing muster in court. She says that's my fear. One, we do it right constitutionally, and two, if we do a small piece of it, we're not going to touch it for 20 years. And that's part of the problem is you do a little bit. People would say, okay, we've dealt with that, and let's move on.
I think if they remove it from their list of drugs with no medical benefits, all this would go away.
A lot of it would, and that would help with the research end of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to get it out of there and allow people to legalize it federally, allow interstate commerce, all that.
Yep.
Yeah.
In inner city or inter-country commerce too.
Oh yeah, I gotta agree with that too. There's no doubt about that. We can travel with our other medications, and as a cannabis patient, why not allow them to travel with their medication as well?
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
Policymakers and industry members also should not lose sight of how individuals, especially people of color, continue to be criminalized by activities that are now legal at the state level, said Amber Littlejohn, CEO of Minority Cannabis Business Association. First and foremost, we need to get people out of prison, and we need to stop arresting people for doing things that folks are making a lot of money doing, she said. Makes sense.
Yeah. Nationwide, black people are 3.6 times more likely than white people to be arrested for a cannabis-related reason, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. People of color also face tremendous barriers operating within the industry. Attempts have been made to create paths into the industry for those with nonviolent cannabis convictions whose communities were negatively impacted from the war on drugs. But though these efforts have been largely unsuccessful due to of state policies that limit licenses, fail to offer financial and business resources to people of color, and that benefit deeper pocketed multi-state operators, Littlejohn says.
I think one of the biggest problems is there seems to be an incredible disconnect between what people say they support and believe in and what becomes law, she said. It's up to us, the collective us, to be holding folks accountable. In New Mexico, the cannabis industry could generate more than $300 million annually in sales and $50 million in tax revenue over the next 12 months, as well as create 11,000 new jobs within the state in the next 5 years, according to Governor Michelle Littlejohn Grisham's office.
Yeah. Between April 1st and the 3rd, the first weekend of legal cannabis sales in New Mexico, retailers sold more than $5.2 million worth of recreational and medical products. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
Parin Kumar, CEO and co-owner of the newly operated Vanna Society cannabis store in Clovis on the state's eastern border, says she has been seeing a steady stream of customers.
And for small towns like Clovis that has been looking to diversify their economy, the burgeoning industry is a boon expected to bring new jobs and tax revenue. Especially in communities like Clovis, the buildings, the infrastructure, the school need help. This definitely can do a lot for the community economically, Kumar said. It feels like we're giving back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Being able to help fund schools, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and this story also came to us from CNN. And probably 10 or 15 years ago, you never would have heard a story like this, positive story like this about cannabis on that network.
Yeah. And, maybe when the doctor spoke up.
Yeah, it could be.
It could change things.
Yeah, he definitely did. I'm sure he did.
Yeah, oh, he did. He spoke up loud. So, all right. On to the next story, which is somewhat similar. And this says that nationalize the weed industry, according to Jacob in Mag.
Yeah, so today's 420, that's yesterday, obviously. We're indulging in some speculation. What if we didn't just legalize cannabis and put cannabis industry under public ownership and hired the victims of prohibition to run it?
Oh, wow.
I think that's great.
Yeah, as president, Joe Biden says in an October 2020 ad, his campaign never bothered to remove from YouTube. He says, "I'll work to reform the criminal justice system, improve community policing, decriminalize cannabis, and automatically expunge prior cannabis convictions." And he's looking straight at the camera. He ends the short spot. "I'm Joe Biden. That's my commitment to you." Just so you know, Glenn and our watchers, I did click on the link that's available there. And yes, everything right there. He's looking right at the camera, and that's what he says.
And I think that he would actually try to live up to that statement, but I don't think there's a possibility of getting that through the Senate.
Yeah, very, 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 very tough battle to get to that. He's got 4 years, but he's only a year into it. But I don't know. It's just that there's so much other stuff going on. This can't be forgotten. And
I think it's been on the back burner now, though, for sure.
Yeah, let's hope that somebody can change that and it can get brought up to the desk, get some action on this.
Biden has been president for well over a year and has yet to make good on his commitment. Non-violent drug offenders are still getting locked up. Sooner or
Exactly.
later, though, there's no doubt cannabis will be federally legal. It's already recreational legal in 18 states and medically legal in another 37. The question I find myself thinking about on this 420 is, what kind of legal cannabis industry do we want?
One option, the most likely, is a privately owned cannabis industry that allows rich people to get even richer by investing in it. But there's a better solution. We could put the new industry under public ownership and hire the victims of prohibition to run it. If you don't think of today as a holiday, your teens and early 20s were different from mine. I'm a boring middle-aged man now, and when I do partake, my cannabis tolerance is a fraction of what it used to be. But just hearing 4 and 20 still makes me smile.
My favorite explanation of the association of 420 and 420, the date, with cannabis culture is that it stems from H.P. Lovecraft and Kenneth Sterling's 1939 short story, In the Walls of Earreeks. In the story, the main character has a trippy experience, and when his sense of reality comes flooding back to him, he looks at his watch and is astonished to find the time was only 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever heard that version.
I never heard that one before. That's great.
Yeah, more than likely, this is just a coincidence, and one of the more mundane alternative explanations is current. But the Lovecraftian theory is so much more fun. So even they say right there, right?
It's true. It's a fun theory.
And that, more than anything, is also how cannabis is portrayed in the mainstream U.S. culture. It's slightly naughty and subversive, but innocent fun all the same. Think about the Harold and Kumar movies, or that 70s show, the long-running Fox sitcom where Eric Foreman and his friends would sit around in a circle in the family basement, laughing, joking, and getting high. Just so you know, Glenn, when I was doing the Reefer Reporters on Rock 107, I know a family that sat around and did that during the Reefer Reporters.
we all did it. We just weren't allowed to do it in our basement.
Yeah.
And stop to the network censorship rules, the camera would swing around the circle while the joint was passed just off screen and smoke drifted into the frame. I never noticed that. So no teenager was ever technically depicted breaking cannabis laws, but it was an unambiguously affectionate portrayal of a substance that wouldn't be recreational legally in a single state until 6 years after the show went off the air.
Yeah, there you go, eh? America has long looked on cannabis culture with a fond and indulgent smile, even as it keeps locking up many thousands of people for doing exactly what the employees of cannabis shops will, soon enough, be legally doing in every state.
Yeah, it's very true. As the country meanders towards full legal federal legalization, we already know that the future of cannabis industry will probably look like already profitable corporations branching out into the lucrative weed business, while little is done for the people whose lives were destroyed by the criminal justice system for plying the same trade. It's true. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Here's what a better version of the federal legalization might look at. New Hampshire's state monopoly on liquor stores is a useful model. Anyone who's driven through the Granite State and likes whiskey has probably stopped at one. The individual stores have numbers instead of names, but many are so gigantic and well stocked that they're roadside attractions. People drive in from other states to browse the shelves for good bourbons sold cheap because New Hampshire doesn't charge sales tax on products it sells at its own stores. Wow. Really? Don't charge tax.
I guess it's worth traveling to another state to get your booze.
Yeah.
A nationalized cannabis industry could, like those stores owned by the New Hampshire Liquor Commission, bring enormous revenues into the public sector to help pay for badly needed social services. As partial compensation For the victims of prohibition, anyone who served time in prison for non-violent cannabis crimes could skip to the front of the line when applying for jobs at one of the new nationalized cannabis shops. If the strains that line the shelves at these stores were grown not by the new Federal Cannabis Commission directly, but contracted out to growing cooperatives to increase variety and consumer choice, a requirement of the contracts could be that the co-ops also preferentially hired people who had been imprisoned for growing or selling the stuff during prohibition. And I say it's a great idea. Good luck getting that passed.
Getting there, yeah, exactly. It's hard to estimate the amount of money likely to be netted by the future federal legal cannabis industry, whether public or private. But given how much money the industry is already taking in the 18 states with full legalization, it's likely that a nationalized cannabis industry could both provide large numbers of good, unionized public sector jobs and do things like pay for housing for every single homeless person in the United States.
Yeah, meanwhile, offering jobs in the industry to non-violent drug offenders would be a baby step towards justice. After what this country has put them through, it's the very least we could do.
Yeah, for sure. Give them jobs.
It makes sense to me, but I have the government, I have a problem believing that they would ever approve something like that. I think that it'll go like this. They broke the law when it was illegal, so we don't care.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not.
Yeah.
All right. Break time. Off to break we go. Time to medicate. Glenn and I'll be right back after a medical session. You're listening or watching to the Reefer Reporters. We are live here on the Pace Radio Network. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Pace Radio Network, by patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
Hi folks, Scott from stfattiesday.com here, and we're absolutely stoked to tell you about our brand new program called Pass the Peace Pipe and our partnership with Legacy 420 out of Taiwan. We are absolutely proud to be partners with these people. They are an amazing group that have helped so many people with their amazing cannabis medicinal products. And we are working together to gather funds to build the first ever Indigenous specific opioid addiction center here in the Bay of Quinte area on Taiwan land. So we need your help. We need you to repost this video and go to our GoFundMe campaign, because on this October 17th, St. Fatty's Day, we are going to be starting the campaign where we pass the peace pipe from one side of the country to another to unite our country, to gather awareness, but most importantly funds to build opioid addiction centers across the nation, one build at a time.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, we're back for our medication session, and we are the Reefer Reporters, and we are live here on our YouTube channel and our Facebook pages. Well, Glenn, you got to see that commercial there just as we were coming back there on past the Peace Pipe with St. Fatty's Day, as well as Legacy 420. Yesterday, we were live at Legacy 420 as the fundraising continues for this great endeavor.
I think it's a great thing to do. I think it's a really good. Are they calling it a charity?
I don't know what exactly that way. Was it charity? It's they're fundraising in order to create these healing centers for people dealing with opiate issues, and there'll be healing centers, and they want to do them on the reserves across the country, and they're going to do it one at a time.
Sounds like a great thing to me.
Yeah, exactly. Helping those who need help. There's no doubt about that. So, all righty, on to our next commercial, or next story. All right, this one says in the headline, the U.S. Legal and illicit cannabis sales totaled $97 billion.
Wow.
Billion in 2020.
That's a big number.
Sure is. Sure is.
Okay, and that's according to New Frontier data. On Wednesday, the Washington, D.C.-based data and analytics firm teamed with the Cannabis Wellness Company jointly to release the report Cannabis Consumers in America, Dynamics Shaping Normalization in 2022.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, New Frontier data has surveyed more than 20,000 consumers since 2018, analyzing cannabis consumer behavior to produce the report, which estimated that cannabis sales exceeded spirits last year while matching spending on beer.
That amazes me. Exceeded spirits.
Yes, yeah, that's the second time I've seen this. Like, is that something happening like that?
Yeah, wow. That's why all these bills are before all these states, because of this right here. Nearly half, 46% of all survey respondents reported using cannabis daily, with 2/3 consuming more than 1 ounce per week as product selection expands with more convenient and discreet consumption methods. Cannabis is no longer a one-size-fits-all industry, Gary Allen, CEO of New Frontier Data, said in a statement. It's now a commercial imperative for brands, retailers, and operators to do the homework required to understand their ideal customer, why they consume, and what products they prefer.
Other major factors of the report include that flower accounts for half of all legal sales nationally, but the majority of consumers are now focusing or now using non-flower products as additional offerings reach the market. The report states that the primary reasons for consumption include relaxation, pain management, improving sleep outcomes, treating medical conditions, and overall improving wellness.
It sounds to me like most people use it for medicine.
Sure does, doesn't it?
Even if the relaxation is the medicine.
That's right, exactly.
Highlighting a generational shift in cannabis acceptance, the report found that more than half of adults aged 18 to 34 consume at least once daily, significantly more among older age groups. At least once daily. That really surprises me too.
Does it?
More than half. I would have pegged it at 25 or 30%, not more than half.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, there you go. Positive outcomes for medical cannabis use are driving increased acceptance, as 57% of the medical cannabis patients report their conditions improved significantly, with 93% reporting at least some improvement. Now,
and I wonder how that teams up against a commercial drug. 93%
reporting. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's a pretty good outcome.
It sure is. Now, according to Eric Gutschall, jointly co-owner and chief data officer, says that understanding what drives and defines optimal individual consumer experiences is increasingly important. As we continue to capture more experimental feedback, our partnership with New Frontier Data will provide the industry with more holistic view into consumer behavior and preferences.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah, getting that information, then that helps them guide them towards create what people like.
Yeah, and more than half the population currently lives in states where cannabis is legal in some form. Yeah, because it's most states now.
Yeah.
With an additional 18 states planning to legalize either medical or adult use programs during the next decade. The report estimates that 96% of Americans could be living in legal cannabis markets by 2030, significantly expanding the legal industry and reducing stigma around consumption.
Yeah, there you go, eh? If those predictions work out true, you
Yep.
got to do it federally. However, they say in the report, while legalization may improve the quality and availability of cannabis products, the pervasive and deeply entrenched illegal market is not a barrier for consumers in unregulated markets, and consumer behavior is quickly normalizing across all markets.
Yeah, I think the illegal market is mostly out of business in this country, mostly.
Well, there's still lots going on.
Yeah, I think a lot of them would be. I mean, if they're classing the illegal market as someone who grows 5 plants instead of 4, I guess that's illegal.
No, well, there's still illegal products out there that are made by the illicit market. Some call it the legacy market.
Yeah.
Forefathers, whatever you want to say, and they look at them they're not created or produced legally, so they want to remove those. And
I think a lot of that has to do with licensing.
Get them changed over, allow them into the industry. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And there has been some people that have been able to cross, but there's still some barriers there. I think if they made things,
it's hard because it's like the last story we talked about. If they let the people who have been legally impacted, arrested and jailed for possession into the industry, and I don't think any governments want to do that.
Yeah, and there are some people getting in who have, but there has to be more acceptance of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, on to our next story. And this headline reads, Cannabis advocates push for decriminalization in Taiwan. As we go international.
Yeah, Taipei, April 16th. An advocacy group issued a call Saturday for cannabis to be decriminalized and accepted for medical use in Taiwan. At a press event in Taipei ahead of 420 Weed Day, the group Green Sensation said cannabis should be removed from Taiwan's anti-drug campaigns.
Furthermore, the sale of medicinal products containing up to 0.3% THC should be legalized in Taiwan, according to their Green Sensation spokesperson, Chung Hong Yong, at a press conference. He also called for the cannabis to be decriminalized in Taiwan by means of an amendment to the Narcotics Hazardous Prevention Act.
They're calling for legalization of 0.3%.
Yeah.
That's so low.
So that's hemp, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets the door open. Let's just hope that if they get it open at 0.3%, that it's not another 20 years before they get it to increase again, or before they discuss it again.
Yeah. I guess it is a foot in the door. According to Chung, the Taiwan government policies on cannabis were fragmented as the Ministry of Justice continued to wage war on cannabis users, while the Ministry of Health and Welfare was getting special approval for people to import medicines containing cannabinol, the second most active ingredient in cannabis. Yeah, they seem to do that a lot. They arrest people on one side and reward people on the other.
Yeah. They import it, but don't allow their own citizens to do it.
Yeah.
In similar vein, Zhou Li, a prominent human rights lawyer and member of the Green Party Taiwan, says the MOJ is biased against cannabis and it should be decriminalized. The MOJ's war on cannabis is prejudiced, as the most abused drug in Taiwan is actually amphetamine, says Li, who represents the Green Sensation.
The press conference was held ahead of 420 Weed Day, which is marked annually on April 20th in some countries around the world, to either celebrate the legalization of cannabis or raise awareness of the arguments for decriminalizing it. The event in Taipei on Saturday was held at Liberty Square under the theme "End the War on Cannabis," and it included fun activities, musical performances, and speeches.
Oh, that sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Green Sensations said it had planned an audience a countdown at 4:20 Saturday at Liberty Square before heading over to the MOJ for a press conference, after which it would have handed the ministry a petition signed by more than 14,000 people. The ministry, however, deemed the activities illegal, and Green Sensations then revised its schedule to hold a press conference at the MOJ at 10:30 before the start of the other activities, the group said Thursday in a Facebook post. So
yeah, of course it's illegal.
Yeah.
Even so, during the press event, Green Sensation and other cannabis advocates were asked 3 times by police to disperse right in the middle of their conference. Police said the group has started the public event ahead of the initially announced schedule and may have been using the petition as a ruse to stage an illegal protest. Yeah.
Well, it was good to see that they still held it.
Yeah.
And there's no report of any arrests in the.
Yep. Not in this story.
Not that story anyway. So yeah. So maybe, it's a start. They had their protest, and not seeing anybody get arrested is good.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to make our way over to Switzerland, because over in Switzerland, over there, they are to launch its first cannabis sale pilot this summer.
Yeah, Swiss authorities have approved a plan for pilot testing the sale and use of cannabis for recreational purposes this summer in Basel, joining in on a debate over the pros and cons of selling cannabis legally.
Yeah, Swiss health authorities on Tuesday approved the launch of a pilot project for the recreational consumption of cannabis, as you mentioned, in Basel. About 400 people in the city will be allowed to buy cannabis from select pharmacies later this summer, according to the city's government. 400 people.
What does that mean? 400 people? Did they get selected? Did they win a lottery? What?
I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe the story will tell us. Read on.
They will be questioned regularly about their usage pattern and physical and mental health. It sounds like it's a study. They have allowed 400 people to buy this. Yeah. The Swiss Federal Office of Public Health said the idea was to increase understanding of alternative regulatory forms, or regulate the sale of cannabis at pharmacies, because so many people consume the drug.
The aim is to test whether consumption of cannabis changes when it can be bought legally. Attitudes about the recreational use of cannabis have been shifting around the world, with Malta becoming the first EU member country to legalize the recreational use of cannabis last year.
And Germany and Luxembourg are also expected to follow suit. Swiss authorities say cannabis black market is thriving.
Yeah, health authorities say cannabis was widely used by people in the country despite a ban on its production, cultivation, and consumption. Although cannabis sales are prohibited, consumption is widespread and the black market is flourishing, according to the Federal Office of Public Health.
Yes, Swiss authorities cleared the way for limited projects to test the use of cannabis in May 2021. And the pilot projects for those 18 years old, above 18 years. Yeah. Only people who consume cannabis and are above 18 years old will be allowed to participate in the project, the local government said.
Yeah, the project, which involves authorities and researchers from the local government, the University of Basel, and the University Psychiatric Clinics, Basel, will run for 2.5 years. Health authorities have warned that people participating in the project will be penalized should they pass the cannabis on to others. So don't get in the circle with somebody with them because they can't pass you the doobie.
It seems to me this is completely and utterly redundant. This has been done in so many countries already. Can't they just go on a study that another country has done, within the last 10 years?
No. No, they have to do their own, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there might have been something different. Different about it. So,
Slow it down. Slow it down. That's what it is. Slow it all down.
That's right. On to our second 420 story of the day. We talked about Vancouver earlier. Let's go across the pond. Let's head over to Germany. We're in Berlin. They had the pro-cannabis rally demands the immediate legalization of cannabis.
And hundreds of cannabis users gathered in the German capital to mark 420, the annual cannabis celebration, and demand legalization of the drug. Germany's new government has promised a new law. At least 500 pro-legalization protesters gathered in front of Berlin's Brandenburg Gate on Wednesday for 420, the annual April 20 celebration marked by cannabis consumers around the world, to urge the government to move forward on its plan to decriminalize the drug.
The police presence, enough to fill several police vans parked around the demo, prevailed on organizers to turn the German hip-hop and rap music down, but made no overt attempt to trace the many clouds of smoke hanging above the small crowd. So they asked them to turn the music down, but keep smoking your doobies. Yeah. The gathering was made up of activists, rappers, former police officers, people who use cannabis for medical treatments, and several small business owners who used the opportunity to promote cannabis-friendly products, from ecological hemp and beeswax firelighters to an all-in-one cannabis grow kit, complete with fume extractor and power unit. A fume extractor? It sounds like a fan.
Yeah, it's a fan. All promises and no action, which I guess most of the world's used to by now.
Yeah.
An estimated 4 million people in Germany consume cannabis, and the coalition contract presented by Chancellor Olaf Scholz's new government last December was clear enough about its aims. We will introduce the controlled distribution of cannabis to adults for recreation, the government promised, before detailing its reasons. This will ensure quality, prevent the proliferation of impure youth protection. We will laws social consequences after 4 years.
4 years. Wow. But 5 months on, and there has been no word or timetable about the legal stores might be open. And pro-cannabis activists are getting impatient at what they consider unnecessary foot dragging. After all, the Green Party, now a part of the government coalition, has already presented a draft law to the Bundestag in the last few years and seen it defeated.
And all they have to do is sign it, said Martin Montana, dressed in a suit decorated from head to foot with fluorescent green cannabis leaves. What's important is protecting young people, making sure it's not dealt in schoolyards. All that's logical, just like with alcohol. Montana is a former soldier who said he used cannabis to cope with the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. I needed to control my flashbacks, and for the last 20 years, I've managed to do that, he said. I just want to do that peacefully and legally.
Yeah, exactly. One of the Germany's most famous and passionate legalization campaigners is Andres Mueller, a judge at a Berlin juvenile court who has been persistently outraged at the amount of police and judicial time he thinks is wasted on prosecuting drug consumers. This is a judge who's supporting this.
Yeah,
he says that I thought it would happen quickly now. I thought they'd bring a draft law into Parliament. There's a Green Party draft law ready to go. So go ahead.
Yeah, but rushing through a law would be counterproductive, according to the government. A spokesman for Burkhard Bleinhart, the federal commissioner for drugs and addiction, said several ministries have to be included in the framing the law, listing the agriculture, economy, finance, justice, and foreign ministries as examples. Can't we just make it simple? It's legal.
Well, here in Canada, cannabis, before it was legal, this was years and years ago, before it became legal for even patients. So this is back in 2000. It was actually legal for like a year and a half here. There was no law, but yet it wasn't promoted, so nobody really knew.
Yeah, and the whole country didn't fall apart either.
No, it didn't fall apart. So it sort of just sort of let it fade away, the law fade away, and nobody will notice.
Yeah.
Now where were we? Where were we? Investigate. Each of these houses must make contribution. All these contributions have to be minutely coordinated with one another. Also, the state governments, local authorities, schools, addiction help organizations, and police have to prepare for the altered situation.
How many addiction help organizations are required for cannabis?
Well, yeah, they get involved due to the mental health end of things.
Yeah, but it's a very small amount. It's not you know what I mean?
Stakeholders, they call them stakeholders, and
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, CAM8 here in Canada.
Mr. Blindhart regularly emphasizes that rush jobs could do injustice to the complexity of the plan. Spokesman said the aim is to make a success of the agreement on cannabis in the coalition contract that endures beyond a day.
Mueller has absolutely no time for such arguments. The police don't have to prepare at all. They'll be completely unburdened the very next day with just one little law. I know a lot of police officers. I spent 20 years as a lecturer for the police, and they would be very happy if they didn't have to pursue people.
Yeah, I think he's right. Two pro-legalization organizations, the German Hemp Association and the Network for Legalization, have set up an online star ticker based on criminal statistics and a DHV study on the potential tax revenue of legalized cannabis that counts the estimated number of consumption-related criminal prosecutions and the estimated lost taxes with every second the government fails to introduce legal cannabis sales. In April 20th, 132 days into the new German government, the ticker stood at over 68,000 prosecutions and over 1.8 billion US.
Holy smokes, bunch of money there.
Yeah, since April 20th.
Yeah. A study published last year by the Heinrich Heine University in Dusseldorf calculated that dealing with cannabis-related crime incurred 1.6 billion. I'm not sure what would that be. I'm not sure what that symbol is. It'd be their money, anyways. German money.
Marks. Maybe marks.
Marks. Yeah. In police costs in 2020, plus 447 million in court costs, factoring in both savings and tax revenue. The study found that cannabis legalization could bring the state 4.7 billion a year.
I remember them talking about New York State probably 10 or 15 years ago, and the budget for just cannabis-related incidents was just absolutely incredible. I think it was, in my memory, it's like $700 million for 1 year.
Oh,
yeah, that was one state.
Yeah, one state. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do that, times that by 52.
Yeah. Another prominent speaker at Wednesday's demo was Hubert Wimber, former police president in the city of Munster and now head of the German branch of law enforcement against prohibition, an organization of police officers and lawyers.
LEAP. That's who they are. Yeah. I've spoken to years ago. I spoke to a few members of LEAP from the U.S. Wember said decriminalization was just an initial step. It's about creating a regulated market with the aim of pushing back and ultimately destroying the black market. That's what we all want as consumers, a transparent market with reasonable criteria for active ingredients and concrete youth protection rules. I know from my experience that criminal markets do not protect young people at all.
No, they don't. Though decriminalization would have an instant effect and could be done quickly, the process of legalization could take several years, as it would involve setting up the farming, processing, and retail sale of cannabis in licensed stores. So why don't they just decriminalize it right now and then work for the couple years to legalize it?
That's what some people said that should have been done here in Canada.
Yeah, it makes more sense to me than keep arresting people, keep the system going.
Yeah.
Medical cannabis has been illegal in Germany since 2017, and in practice, many cannabis-related prosecutions in Germany are dropped by state prosecutors because the amounts involved are so low.
Yeah, but
waste of time and money.
Yeah, they also say that, but at the same time, there are 57,000 convictions in Germany courts for consumers of illegal drugs. That's a scandal. Consumers don't harm anyone. They don't infringe on the rights of other people. It's completely absurd.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Well, on to our final story of the day. And I guess this would be one you could say green environmental issue that can help out for cannabis consumers and growers, right? And the headline here says, how cannabis growers can use no-till methods to reduce the carbon footprint.
Yeah, no-till cultivation is part of the larger cannabis growing system, often called living soil, where microorganisms, not synthetic nutrients, feed the plants. Cannabis cultivators are turning to no-till cultivation methods to limit their carbon footprint, maintain soil health, and save thousands of dollars on equipment and fertilizer costs during each grow cycle.
The technique of no-tilling soil before planting or after harvest is often part of a larger cultivation system that includes cover crops and is often referred to as living soil, where the planting material is rich with microorganisms that feed the cannabis plants rather than synthetic nutrients.
Yeah, a healthy no-till system can require little to no off-site agriculture inputs, conserves water significantly when compared to conventional agriculture, and cultivates a healthy soil food web of microorganisms that benefit the greater ecosystem as well as the cultivated crops, said Lauren Fortier, Director of Cultivation at Theory Wellness, a cannabis company based in Stoneham, Massachusetts.
Moreover, a no-till system doesn't require sacrificing quality, according to Josh Turner, the Vice President of Cultivation for Green Meadows. In fact, Turner said no-till farming can lead to higher potency and terpene content once the living soil is established.
And much, much better flavor.
Yeah.
With no-till, you can still meet your production goals and demands and reduce your impact on the environment and your local ecosystem, he said. Brandon Curtin, who's Chief Cultivation Officer at Hudson Hemp, based in Hudson, New York, sees the benefits of eliminating tilling as threefold.
Increasing biological function by not disturbing the soil like the floor of a healthy forest. Natural bacteria and fungi populations are important for breaking down minerals from the stone, soil, and plant debris from cover crop rotations and work to make these compounds available to plants.
Each year, with less disturbance and more plant material introduced, the soil cycle begins to feed itself. One of the greatest benefits of eliminating tillage is the creation of healthier soil, said Ryan Douglas, a Florida-based cannabis consultant. The reduction of tilling helps to protect the soil's natural structure and makes it less susceptible to erosion.
Digging up topsoil releases carbon into the atmosphere, which contributes to greenhouse gases, but no-till techniques avoid the environmental impact by not disturbing the natural structure of the soil. No-till farming could help lower a cannabis company's overall carbon footprint.
Yeah, and that's all without mentioning the cost savings that cannabis growers can reap by leaving the soil undisturbed. Rather than requiring large, expensive farm equipment, no-till systems can be maintained with very minimum mechanization, Fortier pointed out. Instead of expensive tillers, a system of cover crops and basic hand tools can maintain soil structure and aeration, she said.
Healthier soils mean healthier crops, which can directly impact a grower's bottom line, according to Douglas. He pointed out how living soils and no-till methods help with pest management. For example, damaging insects and disease pathogens can infect weak plants first.
Yeah, a healthy plant is a grower's first line of defense against crop loss, Douglas said. Turner added that growers using a no-till and living soil need less added nutrients and don't have to replace soil or substrate every year, which saves thousands of dollars each grow cycle.
However, no-till or low-till farming does take some time to develop. Curtin pointed out, a cannabis grower using this method must build up compost and mulch reserves, but over time, creating no-till beds that are in permanent locations with permanent systems create a cost that can be spread over many years.
No-till farming is just one aspect of the biological tool belt that we use to close loops and save costs in the long run by not relying on fossil fuel-based fertilizer inputs. Tilling, digging, and overturning topsoil releases carbon into the air as CO2. That's one way that commercial agriculture contributes to greenhouse gases and climate change.
Yeah, and she goes on to say that no-till systems instead use crops that sequester carbon into the soil, and because the system is never tilled, that carbon stays there to be used by the living ecosystem in the soil. Plus, you're not using the farming equipment, running the tractors, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Curtin agreed that no-till farming is a great way to store carbon. Each season plant matter, which is made of carbon, is composted back into the soil, and the cover crops in the winter hold and sequester the carbon from the air and from the plant matter. Aside from the carbon footprint benefits, no-till farming uses less overall water, according to Turner. Plants grown in the living soil system lose less moisture to evaporation and erosion.
Another benefit, less water. Instead of using single-use plastic mulch and drip-type irrigation that must be bought every year, no-till growers employ natural mulches that break down and add organic matter to the soil. No-till systems retain water much more effectively than conventional tilled land, according to Fortune.
The main drawback of no-till farming is that weeds can still be difficult to control. By leaving the natural soil structure intact, farmers inevitably leave the weeds. If soil nutrition is sufficient and water is plentiful, weeds can grow faster than the cannabis, requiring extensive manual labor to remove them.
Pigweed, for example, is a common challenge with no-till systems, according to Turner. His solution, use a heavy mulch to keep the weeds from taking over. Ultimately, Fortier advised growers taking this path to stay patient and give it time. And finishes up with, although the long-term benefits outweigh the cost over years, it can take a few years of restorative land maintenance to establish a healthy no-till system that yields the same as conventional agricultural. There you go. Don't turn your soil. You turn your soil, you're releasing carbon into the air.
You used to grow with living organics, didn't you?
I still do grow with living soils. I don't do no-till farming because I'm not doing it outside, but I still grow in a living soil environment. Use the dry nutrients. I even got a video out there online of the worm crawling around inside the container. So,
wow.
Yeah. It's because it takes a while to learn. It's not just about measuring off so much fluid and just pouring it into your water before you're feeding. There's more to it.
Yeah.
And it's I look at it being healthier for me, and it gets me more involved with my plants.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. Right. So, and it is it's different, but it's a good way to grow that way. So, all righty, what's up for you? That's the end of our stories. You got nothing more to report on.
Same thing every single day for me. It's more work on my house.
More work on the house. I see you got
railings on the back deck.
Yeah, I see you got the guitars all hanging up there today.
Yes, sir. I remember to bring them back.
That's good. That's good.
A couple of them will leave again today, but they'll be back again.
They'll be back. Good stuff. All right. Other than that, that's a report from the Legacy420.com news desk for April the 21st, 2022. And as we close the show, we'd like to say thank you for watching, and also to our sponsors, Legacy420.com, BMAHydroponics.com, drbuckcts.com, as well as Account for Lifestyle Shop. And a big thank you to our listeners and watchers. Thanks for tuning in. And other than that, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's lovely.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.